All right, fellow headbangers. At long last, it is time for the Disturbed album review of Evolution, and then I'm going to rank the Disturbed albums in order, in my opinion, of their best album to their worst album. I'm not going to talk about Evolution, break it down a whole lot right off the bat, since I'm going to add it to the rankings as well. But just a quick touch on Evolution. It come out in 2018. They had 4 singles off of it. It was Are You Ready?, A Reason to Fight, No More, and Hold On to Memories, which I think just come out recently. This album was a little bit different from past Disturbed albums. A lot more ballads on this album for Disturbed. I guess you could say it got the sound of silence treatment, if you will. But it's their newest album, and like I said, a lot of ballads on this one. Not very much old Disturbed sound from the past, but it is what it is, and it's a Disturbed album, so it'll be added to the list. But we'll go ahead and get into the rankings of their albums. There's 8 albums I'm going to rank from Disturbed today, including Evolution. There's also a compilation album, I guess you could say. It's of nothing but B-sides. I am going to rank that album as well, just because it was unreleased songs from previous albums, but I feel it warranted a spot on the list because it was, like I said, unreleased songs, and it actually come out in 2011 as an album itself. So we did add that to the list, and the only thing I will be not doing is Disturbed had two live albums. I will not be ranking those on here as I feel live albums doesn't count toward a official studio album or something like that. So kicking it off, we're going to go from 8 to 1. Kicking it off, number 8 is the newest album, Disturbed's Evolution. Like I said, a lot of ballads on this song, or on this album, excuse me. Like I said, they had 4 singles. They had Are You Ready?, A Reason to Fight, No More, and Hold On to Memories. For me, as a Disturbed fan, I rated this one, Evolution, 2 out of 10 stars. It is their 7th studio album, and like I said, it was released in 2018. From a Disturbed fan standpoint, this album really hurt. It's completely different from everything that they did, and the only reason I gave it 2 stars is because it was Disturbed. That's the only reason it got 2 stars for me. There is 3 songs on this album that have the Disturbed sound. Out of 10 songs, 3 had the Disturbed sound, or what I would call close to old Disturbed sound. Other than that, the other songs on the album don't do it for me at all. It's ballad, 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 ballad. Try to get a radio hit, ballad, ballad, ballad. So, again, 2 out of 10 stars for Evolution, ranked at number 8. Like I said, the album got the sound of silence treatment, if you will. It's just, to me, not doing it for a Disturbed album. My personal songs on this album that I like I said, there was 3 songs that had a Disturbed sound to it, and it was Are You Ready?, In Another Time, and The Best Ones Lie. So if you want old Disturbed sound on their new stuff, check out those 3 songs. Other than that, you might as well just not even listen to it. I mean, that sounds bad to say. I know there's probably some Disturbed fans that may like it, but from my opinion, I don't like it other than those 3 songs. So, again, my favorites were Are You Ready?, which was the first single off of there, In Another Time, which was not even a single off of there, and The Best Ones Lie, which was also not a single off of there. So, 2 of the 3 songs that I like were not singles, and I guess that's for a reason. They were going for more radio hit ballad type songs on this album, and I just wasn't feeling it for this one. So, again, number 8, Evolution. Moving on to the next one. This album here, I rated it 3 out of 10 stars. This album was the band's fourth studio release, released in 2008, and it is Disturbed's Indestructible. And just a quick touch here, back to Evolution real quick before I move on. There was two Disturbed albums that didn't have what they call the guy right here, the band's mascot. Two albums didn't have it on it. You could say one album was really good and then the other one was not good. Once I seen the guy was not on this one after he was a more established figure for the band, I kind of had a feeling that it was going to go in that direction. So, again, we're going to number 7 here, ranking number 7. Like I said, it's Disturbed's Indestructible. Again, I gave it 3 out of 10 stars. I'm not saying that this album is anywhere close to Evolution as far as sound or anything like that, song structure and all that. There's none of that on this album, but to me, this one is different from the other Disturbed albums, should I say. I rated it low because I felt like it didn't really have the it factor or anything to really push it over the edge like their other albums did. But they did, however, continue to implement their new guitar sound with this one that they started on one of their other albums that I'll be talking about here in just a little bit. But they continued that, and what I mean by that is they started doing a lot more solos and stuff like that with the album I'll be talking about later and on Indestructible. They done a lot more solos and stuff with that, which did help the album in my opinion, but just this one didn't have anything that really stood out over the edge for me, in my opinion, as far as a Disturbed album. They did have 4 singles off of this album. They were Inside the Fire, Perfect Insanity, Indestructible, and The Night. And to me, those were really good songs on here, but it just wasn't something that was going to push this album up to the top of the list or even close to the top of the list for me as a Disturbed fan. But my personal favorites on this album were Indestructible, Inside the Fire, Criminal, and Haunted. Those were some solid tracks on here that I do like personally. Again, this album is not anywhere close to Evolution at all as far as sound. This does have your more typical Disturbed sound. It just didn't have one of those sounds or anything to really push it over the edge for the band on this one. Although it's one of their early ones. Like I said, it's the 4th of 8 releases, so it's halfway in between for them. But it was just one that didn't really have a standout for me. But again, I ranked it number 7 on the list. Moving on to number 6 is one of their more recent releases, and it's going to be Immortalized. It was their 2015 release. I gave it a 5 out of 10 stars, which is halfway, if you want to say, for the album. It is their 6th studio album, and like I said, released in 2015. It was their first album after a 5-year hiatus. They took a 5-year break, and this is what they had afterwards. You could say that this album had a different sound in some parts of the album, and the other parts of the album were your typical Disturbed. They had 4 singles as well off of this album. The Vengeful One, The Light, The Sound of Silence, and Open Your Eyes. Of course, The Sound of Silence was probably the biggest hit the band ever had. Although I personally think that they did a really good job with that cover, it ended up changing their sound for not the better, you could say, in my opinion, because after this, you ended up with Evolution, and they were trying more for the ballad, more for the single like they got with The Sound of Silence. And again, I'm not saying the Sound of Silence cover was bad. They done a really good job with the Sound of Silence cover, but to me, it just changed their sound, and I kind of don't care for that song now because that's what they're wanting to copy and replicate, is that sound that they got from the Sound of Silence. And I'm not about that sound. When I want to hear Disturbed, I want to hear Disturbed. I want to hear the pounding. I want to hear, David Draymond belt it out with the way he always has, and not try to sing a ballad or something like that. It's just not what I'm looking for when I want Disturbed. But my personal favorites off of this album, two of which is on the deluxe version of the album, which is what I have here. This is the deluxe version of the album. But my personal favorites are The Vengeful One, Who, Tyrant, and Legion of Monsters. Tyrant and Legion of Monsters, like I said, are off the deluxe version of the album. So you could look those up if you wanted to and hear those without having to get the deluxe version. But me personally, I like physical copies, CDs, vinyls, whatever. So I got the deluxe version of this one, and it come with those 3 bonus songs on it. And Tyrant and Legion of Monsters were 2 of the bonus songs, and they were some of my favorites off of that album right there. Again, this is Immortalized, and I rank it number 6 on my Disturbed album list. Moving on to number 5. This one I rated a 6.5 out of 10 stars. This album was never really labeled a studio album, although it was released, and it was a B-sides compilation album. It was released in 2011, as I stated earlier. But this is Disturbed's The Lost Children. Like I said, it's a B-sides release, but I feel for this ranking and to do them some justice, I feel The Lost Children should be put on the list. So we're going to rank it, like I said, a 6.5, and we're going to put it at number 5. I wanted to include it because it was an album of tracks never released before by the band, and I felt it deserved a spot. I'm going to say that to be a B-sides album, it was a damn good album. I didn't know how some of the tracks didn't make it to their original albums that they were recorded for, because most of these tracks here are very, very good tracks. I feel like some of them that were on this could have been released on some of the other albums that they were recorded for, and took a few off of the ones that did make the album, but record label, I guess, didn't want them on there, but they ended up did releasing The Lost Children. And like I said, I feel it was a damn good album to be B-sides. So it did, however, have 2 singles off of it, and they were Hell and 3. So those songs were very good on there. And my personal favorites on this track, or on the album rather, is Hell, Monster, Dehumanized, and 3. So check those tracks out off of here. If you've not heard this B-side album, listen to it. Like I said, it's very good. And again, it comes in at number 5 on my Disturbed album list. And now we're going to move on to number 4. I rated this album a 7.5 out of 10. This album is the one that started it all for the band, and it was released in the year 2000. This was their very first release, the debut release, and it is The Sickness. And you may be able to tell here, this album has a reflective cover. It can go from one to the other. I know it's kind of hard to tell. There it goes. Reflective cover. This is the 10th anniversary edition. I used to have the original debut, but it ended up getting beaten, banged up, and lost in several moves that I made in my younger years of life. So I ended up having to get the re-release of the 10-year anniversary. But again, this is the album that started it off for Disturbed. This was the album that got me hooked on Disturbed when I first heard Down With the Sickness, and that sound that it had, and Draymond belting out that typical sound that he makes. I'm not even going to try to attempt it because I will A, embarrass myself, and B, just do a terrible job of it. So, but that typical David Draymond belt that he does there on Down With the Sickness, once I heard that, I was hooked. I was hooked from Down With the Sickness. This album overall, it had me hooked as a Disturbed fan to this day, minus Evolution, should I say. But it was just something that, at that point, for me, musically, I needed to hear that, and that's what I wanted to hear. So, again, a 7.5 out of 10 for me is a damn good album, very good album. It had 4 singles off of it: Stupefy, Down With the Sickness, Voices, and The Game. All solid tracks, all very good tracks. Three of those actually are some of my personal favorites on here. I had a little bit more personal favorites on this album than I did some of the ones I talked about previously, just because I've listened to this one so much, and a lot of the tracks have stuck to me a lot more than some of the other ones on the other albums. But my personal favorites were Voices, Stupefy, Down with the Sickness, Want, and Dropping Plates. Check all those tracks out off of this album. Check this whole album out. If you like Disturbed, anything you've heard by them, this is your typical Disturbed sound. It's what you're gonna get with Disturbed, and it's what started it all for them. And like I said, I rated it fairly high for them. It wasn't my absolute favorite Disturbed, but it's what started it all for me, and it's what I want to hear when I think of Disturbed. Again, I ranked it number 4, and it's The Sickness. The album is called The Sickness. So we're going to keep moving right along to number 3. This album, I rated it 8 out of 10, and it was their second studio release, released in 2002. It had a lot more religious themes to it, and to me that made for some fantastic songs on here. They didn't really do a lot of religious stuff with The Sickness, and they haven't really done a lot of religious stuff after that. This album touched on a lot of religious points. I know some people don't care for religion points in their music. Same with politics, which Disturbed has touched on a few times. But this album here, I rank it at number 3, and it is the Disturbed album Believe. Again, their second studio album, released in 2002. It had 3 singles off of it. Prayer, Remember, Liberate. All very solid, very good tracks. Prayer is probably my favorite Disturbed song overall. It's been a song that I've listened to, I don't know, probably 1,000 times since I've discovered it. So it's my favorite track that Disturbed's ever made. It's fantastic. It's my absolute favorite that they've ever made. I still get goosebumps when I hear it pop up on my Spotify, or when I have the album playing in my Jeep. I get goosebumps still to this day when I hear that song. It's just very powerful, very powerful. And that's the thing for me about this album, is with the religious aspect of it, it's got some powerful songs on there. I mean, it don't necessarily even have to be heavy or fast songs to be powerful for me for that album. It's just what he's singing about, and just the overall song, the song flow of the album. It from start to finish, it's just powerful. I mean, it will hook you. If you're not hooked by The Sickness, Believe is going to hook you. I promise. It's gonna have you listening to more Disturbed if you don't already. So again, I rated that an 8 out of 10. It's number 3 on my list of Disturbed albums, and if it wasn't for the next 2, obviously it would have been number 1 on my list. Believe it's just a fantastic album overall. So make sure you check that one out as well. But we're going to move on to number 2, and anybody that knows me and knows that I listen to Disturbed is going to know that this album was going to be high on the list, just because a lot of the songs that I share or talk about from Disturbed are going to be from this album. I rated it at 8.25. I know that's an odd ranking, but I wanted to kind of fit it in at number 2, just because I like it so much, and I didn't want it to be number 1 because there's one more album that I feel is better. But between that one and Believe, I feel 8.25 is the only way I could go. I know, like I said, it's a weird ranking, but it just stood out for me over Believe. And this was their 5th studio album. It was released in 2010, and it's the album Asylum. And this is going to be your Disturbed sound. If you're looking for it, this is going to be your Disturbed sound that you're looking for, along with the number 1 album I'm going to be talking about here in just a few minutes. So if you're looking for a Disturbed album that you want to start out with, I would say start out with Asylum. I mean, that's one to get you started, and then you can venture more into Disturbed. But Asylum, very good album. Very good album. It had 4 singles off of it: Another Way to Die, Asylum, the title track, The Animal, and Warrior. And if you've listened to the radio anytime between 2010 and now, you've probably heard some of these songs by Disturbed. They do get played on the radio, but a lot of their better songs for me are not played on the radio, but their radio hits are still very good songs for the most part. So, but again, 4 singles off of that one. My personal favorites, obviously number 1 off of this album for me, and I've told our fellow admin Larry about this song. I told him about this album. He went out and got it, and I told him about this song in particular, and it's my absolute personal favorite off of this album is Serpentine. That song on here, oh my gosh, it's a killer album or track. Sorry, it's a killer track. It's the best one on here, and I can't say enough about it. It's probably right up there for me with the song Prayer that I talked about previously from Believe. Serpentine is absolutely killer. It's fantastic. The other 2 that I like are My Child and Asylum, the title track. Both of those are also really good. Again, the album Asylum, 8.25 out of 10, ranked number 2 for me out of all their albums. So check that one out as well. And then number 1, it was really tough for me to pick between Asylum and this album here. I went with this one here because A, I have listened to it longer. B, to me, it is what Disturbed is. It is what Disturbed is all about. This album right here, to me, is the Disturbed album above the rest of them. It is the Disturbed sound you're going to get. It is what you're going to look for when you think of Disturbed. And to me, hands down, it's their best album. The best album Disturbed will ever put out. I don't think they will put out anything going forward that will beat this album or any of their other albums I just talked about, except for Evolution. Again, terrible. But this album right here, for me, will not be topped by Disturbed going forward in the future. If they make more, it will not be beat. If they quit making albums now, obviously it won't be beat. But this album right here is number 1 on the list. I ranked it a 9 out of 10. I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 just because it's hard to get a perfect album, in my opinion. There are few perfect albums in this world that I would give 10 out of 10. But this one, personally for me, I'm giving it 9 out of 10. It is their 3rd studio release, released in 2005, and it is the album 10,000 Fists, the best album by Disturbed you will ever listen to. Hands down. I don't care what anybody else says. They can all suck it for all I care if they think that this is not their best album. I don't care. To me, it is. Other than The Sickness, this album hooked me for sure with Disturbed. The Sickness was 1, Believe was 2, 10,000 Fists was 3. Like I said, The Sickness got me at that point in time with what I was wanting to hear. Believe kind of reeled me in a little bit farther, but then 10,000 Fists come out in 2005. The hook on the end of that line went right into my jaw, and I was done. This album cannot be beat to me. It is the heaviest album that the band has, and this is when they finally introduced some more guitar work with some solos in there. Like I said with Indestructible, they continued with the solos. This is where they started with it. Their first two albums, Believe and The Sickness, did not have any guitar solos that I can remember. If it did, it's slipping my mind, but I do not think that those first two albums had any guitar solos in there. Not saying that it didn't have good guitar work, but when they started doing guitar solos with this, the sound was so much better. It just made it stand out above the rest of them. By far, no comparison to me. This is Disturbed at their absolute best. This is Disturbed right here. If you want a Disturbed album, this is the one you got to get. 10,000 Fist. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It had 5 singles off of it, the most singles off of any of their albums, for good reason. And all these singles that got played on the radio here are fantastic. I'm not even going to deny that. You can say they're mainstream. You can call it whatever you want. But the singles off of this album are singles for a reason. And I'm not just saying that because it's Disturbed. These are singles for a reason. Every song on here is killer from start to finish. Heavy, heavy, heavy. And it's fantastic. All those singles, they included Guarded, Stricken, Just Stop, Land of Confusion, which is a cover song, I believe, from a Phil Collins record. I may be mistaken. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Land of Confusion is a cover of a Phil Collins song, which they done a fantastic job with it. And then the last single was 10,000 Fists, the title track. My personal favorites off of here were Defy, Overburdened, 10,000 Fist, and Avarice. Those, to me, are the best songs on this album, and they can't top anything else on that album, in my opinion. Again, the singles were great. The singles were good. No debating that at all. But Defy, Overburdened, 10,000 Fist, and Avarice are the best ones on this album. And nobody in the future will convince me any differently that 10,000 Fist is not the best Disturbed album that they ever made. I'm sorry. If you feel one is better, great. I'm glad you're listening to Disturbed, and I'm glad you enjoy it. And I'm glad you like an album better than 10,000 Fist. But you're not going to change my mind. And it, to me, it will never be beat. It's far above the rest, in my opinion, as far as Disturbed albums. So it's their best. The best work. Disturbed at their best, and if you want to hear Disturbed, go with that. So, just a quick recap, just to finish it off. I'm going to be wrapping the video up in just a second, but I just want to recap for some of you that maybe haven't listened to Disturbed or maybe don't have their albums, and maybe you want to look into getting them or look into listening to them on a platform somehow. But I'm just going to recap, and I'm going to go from 1 to 8 just because that's how I've set these things down as I was talking to you. So I recommend checking out all of them, minus Evolution. But again, your preference. If you want to listen to Evolution as far as some ballads, go ahead. Be all for it, whatever you want to do. But I have it just to complete my Disturbed collection. I've listened to it enough to give it a review, give it a ranking, and that's it. It probably will not go back into my CD player again. I have the 3 tracks on there that I like on my Spotify list, so if I want to hear those, I'll listen to them that way, but I'm not going to listen to the whole album just for those 3 tracks. I'm sorry. But again, back to what I was doing. I'm going to read these back off to you and show you the album cover again one more time before I end this video, just in case you do want to check these albums out. And again, these are my personal opinion on Disturbed albums, and the way I ranked them is my personal opinion. No influence by anybody on the outside. No influence by any other metal pages, metal magazines, no nothing. This is just Zake's personal opinion on Disturbed albums. But number 1, 10,000 Fist. And the coolest cover, in my opinion. It's got the coolest cover. But, again, number 1, 10,000 Fist. Number 2, Asylum. Number 3, Believe. Number 4, The Sickness. Number 5, The Lost Children. Number 6, Immortalized. Number 7, Indestructible. And number 8, Evolution. Again, my personal opinion, my rankings, but to me, that's just Disturbed in order, and I don't think 10,000 Fist will ever be beat, but if they want to try, bring it on. I'm more than welcome. Bring that sound back. Give it back to the Disturbed fans that have been here from the beginning, that just don't want that ballad stuff. Again, nothing against the Sound of Silence. They done good with that. Believe me, they done a really good job with Sound of Silence, but to try to get that over and over and over and over again on your newest album, it's not cutting it. Us Disturbed fans, and I'm probably not speaking for all of them, but from the Disturbed fans, from myself and the ones that I know and talk to, bring the old Disturbed sound back. Give us what we're used to, but give us something new. We don't want this ballad. If you want to throw one in there, that's fine. Just make it a little bit heavier ballad. There was some heavier ballads on some of their other ones, but don't give us this soft, sappy, cry boo-hoo stuff for the album. We don't want that. We want Disturbed. We don't want Sound of Silence Disturbed, should I say. Simon and Garfunkel Disturbed. That was their song, for those of you that don't know. But we don't want that. We want Disturbed. We want the old Disturbed back. We don't want the evolution of Disturbed. And I think that's what they meant by this album name, Evolution. It's the evolution of Disturbed, and me as a Disturbed fan through and through, I don't want that. I want Disturbed the way they used to be and the way they should be. But thank y'all for taking the time to watch this video, listen to my rankings, listen to me rant about Disturbed for a little bit, listen to me talk about Disturbed. I've been a Disturbed fan from the beginning, like I said, since I've heard Down with the Sickness, and I wanted to do this video to help get Disturbed out to maybe somebody that doesn't know who they are or haven't really listened to them, minus a couple songs they may hear on the radio. But again, thanks for watching and listening. Thanks for keeping up with our Headbangers page. Thanks for interacting with us. Thanks for the participation in the contest that we've been doing. Keep an eye out for more of those. One of our admins and our good friends, Larry Baxter, he's doing some album-to-album comparisons of various albums and artists that he's doing. So keep an eye out for those. Interact with those. Give him your feedback with that. We're trying to do more with our page to interact with our fans. We want to get out there and keep metal music going for as long as we can, and we can do that within ourselves and amongst ourselves as a group and as a friends, but we want it to reach more people. So that's where our fans, which is y'all, come in. We need you to like our stuff. We need you to share it for us. We need your help spreading it out to the others, and to do that we just need we need y'all's help in sharing and liking everything that we put on there, and we greatly appreciate when you do. If it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't have this page, because we do have a decent amount of fans on here. We have over 300 fans, but we want more. We want more interaction. We want more feedback from our fans. Like I said, we're going to be doing more contest giveaways. Larry's going to be doing his album versus album reviews. I'm going to try to start doing some more videos like this, to where I'll either review an album or rank albums or talk about a band, something like that. We're wanting to do more for you guys. That's what it's all about for us, is giving you guys content for you to watch and to listen to. Again, we do share music videos from YouTube on here, of stuff that we're listening to at the time, or whatever we're doing. So again, just continue to like and share for us. We do appreciate it. We thank you for the interaction that those of you that do interact with us give. We do greatly appreciate that, and we hope you continue with that. And we hope that you spread the sound of metal music as much as you can to everybody that you know. We want metal to live on into the future. The classic metal that we're all used to listening to, some of the newer stuff that's not really known, a lot of the underground stuff, we want all of it to be spread. So just continue to like us, continue to share us, tell your friends, your family about our Headbangers page. They can look us up here on Facebook. We also have an Instagram page. Be sure to find us there. Just help us out any way you can, and we'll keep pumping out content for you guys to watch, to listen to talk about, whatever tickles you fancy, shouldn't I say, but just continue to spread music, metal music, because that's what it's all about. That's why we're here, and that's why the artists and the bands and everybody are here, for the love of metal music. And without these bands, we wouldn't be here, and without y'all, we wouldn't be here as well. So just continue to like and share. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I hope that the rest of your day goes fantastic, and just rock on.